He broke into frustrated chants on Saturday, just a few months after their ecstasy at Wembley, a funny game soccer. And there was a funny offside decision against Wigan early on. Flag up, flag down, play on, stop, go. Eventually City was confused as Wigan and the crowd, and the shot was cleared. Still, the City's captain, Bobby Hutchinson, the season has started well. It started with a real bang. Ball sends him away. He's obviously hungry for the ball. Opened up a Wigan's defensive door. In fact, it was blasted open by his pace. Riley pulled the ball back quite brilliantly and unleashed a thunderbolt. Lucky old Wigan. Well, City's first goal came in the 34th minute, and it followed a sweeping move which saw Alan Walsh free on the right. When he gets into a position to shoot, he really does capitalise well. There he is, turns on the ball, and clearly, goalkeeper, no chance. Tunks beaten all ends up. So 1-0 to City, and all that chirping from the Robins was silenced just 2 minutes before the interval, because a corner, Wigan's Ian Griffiths is the man to watch out for. He gets the ball back very well, and just look the way he controls it and brings it back. Here comes the pass now. There's Griffiths, picks the ball up now, chips over Wath, and that made it one apiece. And Wigan were unlucky not to go 2-1 up from this corner. It needed a City knee to clear the line. Little wonder Terry Cooper was fidgeting on the bench. Alan Walsh came near from this free kick. Oh, Tunk saved quite brilliantly, but there was a corner to City, and that proved decisive. Walsh took it. Just watch David Moyes on the far post get above McPhail, 2-1, ahead to Bristol City, and 7 minutes to go. Boy, he enjoyed that one. Well, Hull made a late break, and he set up substitute Paul Fitzpatrick, but Tunks, as you'll see, legs saved the day. 2-1 win for City. In fairness, it wasn't too convincing.
It's a late fitness test, and that meant that City were at full strength, with Steve Neville back in action too. The crowd of over 7,000 soaked up the Indian summer and saw City come close to scoring with the first move of the game. A long clearance upfield. Hutchinson put a wide ball to Neville, Neville to Hull, and Mays was so near to scoring. A quarter of an hour later, Neville was put clear up front by Owen and hit a long, low shot, which Scott Endersby, the former Swindon goalie, parried for a corner. Walsh took it and it came back to him. David Mays climbed into the air and scored his third goal of the season. The Carlisle defence were left to argue among themselves. City's second came from this Walsh free kick. He found Owen clear on the right, and a very clever bit of footwork saw Andy Llewellyn clear behind the defence. His centre missed Riley, but Walsh was there to finish off the move that he'd started. City's third came after half-time. A quick corner, Owen crossed, Mays nodded the ball back, and the cheer went up even before Walsh had hammered home his second goal of the afternoon. A wonderful win for City, and a morale booster for tomorrow's cup game at Ashton Gate.
Terry Cooper sent City out against York with just 3 in attack and 3 in midfield. He must have realised his error in the first minute, and his team spent the rest of the first half rubbing it in. Hardly a shot at goal, hardly an accurate pass. Maybe the great John Attio, on a rare visit to Ashton Gate, intimidated them. Frankly, he must have been thinking of going home for his boots when, in the second half, Brian Williams livened things up. A clever little touch, a cross, and Steve Neville discovered where the target was. That reminded Alan Walsh he too was playing. "1-0, and suddenly a lazy team looked like a promotion side. The crowd of nearly 8,000, surely they deserved the second division, sensed victory, and Steve Neville decided he could provide it. He was using the wing well now to torment York. And inevitably, he hit the second. York must have wondered if Cooper had sent out a different side in the second half, yet all he'd done was introduce wingers. Neville was turning the York defence at every opportunity. So too was Gary Marshall on for the injured Hutchinson, and he set up the third goal. His cross was blocked. Neville, brimming with confidence now, was there with lovely control. Marshall again, and this superb strike from Walsh. Now that's going to take some beating in our score of the month. 2 for Walsh, 3 for City. The last word went to Keith Woff with a marvellous save in the dying moments, even though the thought of losing a clean sheet did seem to irritate him.
Waiting 2 months after injury to make his City debut, former York City player had an impressive first game and virtually marked this man, former Rovers striker Archie Stevens, out of the game. But it was all to be decided by this man, Alan Walsh, with the ball now, who he definitely brought the game alive. He sent this brilliant ball across field to Gary Marshall on the left wing. Marshall took on the defence, conned his way past Gary Parkinson, and Marshall's cross was blasted home by Alan Walsh. Keeper Steve Pearce hopeless, 1-0 to City in the 13th minute. 6 minutes later, Steve Neville gathered a loose header on the far side of the box. Colin Cooper whipped his legs away. Penalty, said referee Mr. John Martin. Up stepped arguably the strongest dead ball kicker in the business, Alan Walsh. "2-0 to City, 2 goals for Walsh. Middlesbrough looked dead and buried, but then came 2 dreadful errors. The first resulted from an awful back pass from David Hull. Bernie Slaven nipped behind City's defence and virtually walked the ball into an empty net. The linesman's flag went up. Slaven thought for a moment he'd been given offside. But after discussion, Mr. Martin was happy with the goal, and suddenly Middlesbrough were right back in the game. And then just before the interval, Brian Law blasted a free kick. It deflected off Alan Walsh's foot, and Watt in the City goal was left groping for thin air. That's how it ended, 2 each, 8,800 fans. Rugby fans packed into Ashton Gate Saturday, the second biggest gate in the second round. Whatever happened to non-leaguers Bath, they knew they were £8,000 richer. Well, Bristol City was soon on top. Alan Walsh unleashed a thunderbolt. Bath's Dave Mogg goes to earth, pushes the ball away. The pressure mounted, and coming up now, a delightful first-time ball from Alan Walsh to Neville. There's a flick-on header, there's Walsh, and there's Neville. Look at his speed. Gets behind the defence, should have shot, doesn't, dithers, and everything then is cleared up, much to the delight of Bath. Well, all that tearing about from Neville tore his shorts. Note the modesty towel. You only see that in soccer, don't you? Well, that change brought about City's goal in the second half. Hutchinson shook off a fierce challenge in midfield, steered the ball into Neville's path. His left foot did the rest. Well, Alan Walsh probably never know why he missed this goal, but he did. And Bath, trailing by that single goal, suddenly upped their game. For about 10 minutes, they pressured City into mistakes, and this time it was Woff who pulled off a diving save. Mogg, a former City player, then made the save of the game. Neville's header, a brilliant save by his near post. And how important that proved to be, 2 minutes from time, Payne to Bodin, back of the net. So, 1-1, the insurance agent earning a replay, much to the delight of the 2,000 Bath fans who watched the match. And for Bodin, well, a very happy man indeed. Second time Bath City went to Ashton Gate with that dream of reaching Wembley next May. But in soccer, the heart seldom rules tired legs, and that was to be the crucial factor. Bristol City's skipper, Bobby Hutchinson, showed professional pace, shrugging off this challenge and putting Steve Neville away. But the determination of the Bath defence fended off his 2 shots, but the writing was clearly on the wall. Bath City created few chances, but this one fell to Martin Grimshaw. Keith Woff happy to see the ball end up in his arms. Gary Marshall showed good skills. He brought this ball onto his right foot, and a good shot. But in the 34th minute, Walsh was put clear in the area. Mogg is still adamant today he didn't bring Walsh down. Referee Alan Seville saw the orange linesman's flag and pointed at the spot. Up step Owen, 1-0 to City. Bath so nearly repeated Saturday's performance with a second-half equaliser. The City defence was in total disarray here, and only the shoulders of Watt saving them. Back to that man Marshall, who had a superb game. Here he set up Steve Neville to score one of the easiest goals he'll get this season. A classic 1-2. Bath had no answer. And Walsh set Marshall up again moments later, but Marshall missing an open goal opportunity. Penalty taker Owen scored again 4 minutes from time to make the final score 3-0 to Bristol City.
Yellow Shirts was soon under siege. Steve White's harrying forcing John McPhail into a poor back pass, only for Jimmy Gilligan to find the angle too acute. In a one-sided first half, City's only effort came from this fine through ball by Steve Neville, which puts through Gordon Owen, whose shot is beaten out by Fraser Digby. That, though, was Owen's last piece of action before limping out of the game with an ankle injury. Swindon's constant pressure, allied to City's defensive failings, produced a goal midway through the half. Newman McPhail getting in a pickle, leaving Steve White with an early Christmas present of a 6th goal of the season. City's over-generous defence almost made a gift of a second Swindon goal soon after. Only this time, neither Charlie Henry or Gilligan were able to capitalise on City's shortcomings. But it took a fine save from Keith Waff to deny Swindon just before the interval. Mark Jones' drive bringing the very best out of the City keeper. After the break, though, it suddenly became a very different story. 6 minutes gone and City were back on level terms. Newman's free kick beats Swindon's offside trap and finds David Moyes unmarked, and his low cross is well turned in by the informed Neville. 2 minutes later, City almost grabbed a second following Gary Marshall's corner. The Swindon defence failed to clear, and Newman's drive just clips the crossbar. As the match wore on, it looked increasingly like each side settling for a point, but Town reminded City not to take anything for granted. Jones' free kick finds Dave Bamber, whose header forces Watt to tip over. But then 3 minutes from time, City plundered the winner. Marshall's cross finds Neville unmarked, and his shot bobbles past Digby and the despairing lunge of Henry to give City victory and condemn Swindon to their first home defeat since losing to Rovers 6 weeks ago. The Bristol jinx clearly lives on.
Local Bristol derby of the season, a preview of the league clash to come on January the 1st. Not to forget, also, it was Rovers' second of 3 games in 6 days. Strenuous days ahead then for Rovers' young goalie Tim Carter. It's little wonder, really, that Bobby Gould is calling Carter, the Rovers' last line of defence, one of his finds of the season. He's extremely talented and, as you're about to see, brave. And if you have those 2 attributes, you have a great soccer career ahead. Alan Walsh soon fooled the Rovers' defence. I thought everyone knew about his favoured left foot. Apparently not. He went down to the line, Riley unable to pop the ball into an empty net. City took the lead from this free kick. The ball is partially cleared. But City's skipper, Hutchinson, nods the ball back into the box. Newman was there to slot it home. In the second half, general confusion again in Rovers' defence. This time Neville manages to swing his boot, but as the ball trickles towards the line, Kenny Hibbett's there to concede the corner. Just minutes later, this move set up City's second. Marshall's cross flicked on by Riley. Walsh's left foot was there, unleashed at close range. And it was just 2 minutes later from this corner that City wrapped it up. Some sloppy defensive work from Bristol Rovers again, I'm afraid. This time it was David Moyes who scored to make it 3-0 for the trophy holders.
Bolton last won at Ashton Gate back in 1908, and the game was just 9 minutes old when Bolton attacked City's flank. The centre gave Steve Elliott a free header, and he found the back of the net. "12 minutes later, City struck back. Hutchinson headed on for Walsh. His 1-2 step over, centres to Neville, and he was there to score his 11th goal of the season. City went 2-1 up just a minute before half-time. Substitute Llewellyn centred, a flick on, Newman challenged the goalie, and Riley was there to score. That was only his second goal of the season. Half-time saw the annual Father Christmas parade. He certainly does have a lot of helpers this year. Even Mother Christmas was there. The second half couldn't have started better for City. What could be the goal of the season? Walsh, clever footwork, chips, and there was Rob Newman flying through the air to hit the header to make it 3-1. Minutes later, City conceded a penalty with a blatant handball, Brian Williams on his own line. Up stepped Steve Thompson, and Watt dived the right way to make a super save. That knocked the stuffing out of Bolton. City then made it 4-1, 20 minutes from time. Everyone expected a Walsh left foot shot. Instead, he scored his 12th goal of the season with his right. So the final score, 4-1 to City, an exact 3-goal deficit, the same that we saw at Wembley last May.
Bristol City had seemed full of Christmas stodge in the 0-0 draw at Port Vale on Boxing Day, and Saturday's bumper crowd of 10,000 at Ashton Gate must have thought they were in for another dose of cold turkey when Walsall took an early lead. Dave Kelly volleyed home. That's the sort of finishing that's made him leading scorer in the division and attracted the attention of the top scouts. Soon afterwards, City almost pulled level, but the overhead kick went just past. But then came the foul which put an end to Keith Curle's comeback. A dangerous cross from Walsh, Riley's back header, and Carl goes in foot up, catching Barber where it hurts. Referee Keith Cooper decided it was too wild, and Curle was sent off for the 3rd time in his career. So City began the second half, 1 man down, but they gave a taste of what was to come when Ray Train cleared off the line. Steve Neville had been running Walsall ragged all afternoon when City finally equalised. A lot of people thought that was a dive, but the ref pointed to the spot, giving John McPhail the chance to score his first penalty for City. The crowd didn't have to wait too long for the winner. Neville and Riley combined to send Fitzpatrick clear, and his first goal for City since he was signed from Bolton. Riley almost added another, but Bristol's 10 men had to make do with a final scoreline of 2-1.
Marshall up well, and Riley once again. Late tackle there by Plymouth, but the referee quite rightly playing advantage. This is Fitzpatrick, waiting for someone to move into the middle, but they hadn't in time because Nisbet can get to it, but City still have it. Oh, this is Newman, a chance here! Oh! Moyes up again. Fitzpatrick not putting his foot on that one. Away comes Summerfield, moving beautifully. And it's there! Nicely taken. Kevin Summerfield won. Bristol City 0. A gap opened up there and Summerfield was quick to spot it. So the game resumes now. Summerfield fit again. Fail knocks it in long. Fitzpatrick. Oh, nice little pass too. Chance for Riley. It's there! Really well taken goal there by Glyn Riley. It's 1-1 and we've got a real cocktail on our hands now. Neville. Llewellyn did well there to get in and get that ball across to Walsh. Chance here. Oh, fine save and a good effort by Walsh. This is the overlapping fullback Williams. It's a good cross. Oh, there we are!
Well, Riley's header, I'm afraid, didn't find the net. The final score, 1 goal apiece.
The pitch may have been declared fit for play, but a thin, soft layer on a frozen base made controlled play almost impossible. The first 90 minutes was a catalogue of errors, Plymouth's McIlvenny missing a clear chance, and then Tommy Tynan failing to hit the mark as Keith Waugh struggles to get across. At the other end, City also squandered chances. Steve Neville will be lucky to have such a clear sight of goal again, and Gary Marshall could have won the game in the closing minutes of normal time. but then 5 minutes into extra time, Plymouth took the lead. A Gary Nelson cross, falling nicely for Kevin Summerfield. In the second half of extra time, City struck back. Alan Walsh's shot slips from the keeper's grasp and Gary Marshall snaps up the rebound. At last, something for the 1,000 or so City fans to cheer about, but their celebrations were short-lived. Hopes of a dramatic victory dashed just 1 minute later. Tynan breaking down the right and Gary Nelson squeezing the ball under Keith Waugh. A bitterly disappointing mistake. City could have equalised again. Glyn Riley quickly onto a defensive error, but fails to beat Jeff Crudgington. Then, seconds later, Plymouth's third from Tommy Tynan. So City's hopes of fame and further fortune at Highbury in the fourth round finally laid to rest.
6,000 City fans turned up at Ashton Gate, convinced, I'm sure, that both teams would emerge with ice skates on. Instead, it was small studs and trainers. It really is nice, though, isn't it, to see families back watching soccer. More and more mums and children can be seen in the crowd. Well, it was debut day for new striker Trevor Morgan. He couldn't believe his luck early on as Marples fumbled it in the goal and the ball ballooned out across the goal mouth to safety. Morgan in trainers couldn't accelerate quickly enough to get on the end of it. Well, City waited until the 12th minute into the second half to get on the score sheet. Here it comes. And just watch the way this ball is eventually nodded away and then kicked away to Brian Williams, the new captain, incidentally, for Bristol City. Lovely through ball, flag stayed down, Alan Walsh turned quickly and then smashed the ball beneath the diving Marples. That was Walsh's 15th goal of the season. Well, Gary Marshall's speed always caused problems for Chesterfield. Here Marshall was cornered and took it out on the corner flag. There were fears that John McPhail may have broken something. Thankfully it was only ankle ligaments and he should be fit by Saturday. Well, having broken the corner flag, Marshall found himself unmarked in the box. It comes across, there it is. Side foot shot was eventually blocked and the ball dribbles away harmlessly. Well, City's best chance to make it 2-0 came 3 minutes into extra time. Owen made the break. There he is with the ball now. Electrifying pace. He centres. Riley should have finished it off. The word is should. Bristol City 1, Chesterfield 0. City 3 points keep their promotion hopes on ice. They're off to Doncaster on Saturday.
Inspired by Jordan in the number 11 shirt. It was Trevor Morgan who had the first chance, but he was a little too slow to capitalise. The Doncaster defence was poor, too often relying on a shaky offside trap. As a result, City passed with ease and growing confidence. Joe Jordan added composure to the front four, showing some skillful touches and often switching the play. Here, Gordon Owen on the wing finding an unmarked Alan Walsh, who nonchalantly taps it down before smashing it past the keeper. So City's first of the afternoon after 16 minutes. Doncaster looked mediocre, only rarely giving Keith Waugh anything to worry about. Here, scrabbling back to tip it over the bar. Doncaster's offside trap was bound to fail sooner or later. After half an hour, Alan Walsh is away unhindered, and Gordon Owen times his run perfectly. In the second half, a failed offside trap again gave City a chance against a defence in disarray. Gordon Owen this time supplying the cross for Rob Newman to head home. By now, it was all City. The only question, how many could they score? Again, Owen on the break, and Newman is only inches away. With 20 minutes to go, Alan Walsh picks up on a half clearance for his second and City's fourth. Trevor Morgan's best chance of the second half came 5 minutes later. Keith Curl getting in the cross, Morgan at the near post just wide. And just when Doncaster must have been thinking at last it was all over, Alan Walsh with a rerun of his second for his hat-trick. So City's best win of the season so far, hoping the arrival of Jordan will inspire more such victories. There's even now talk of promotion.
1,000 fans turned up at Ashton Gate hoping to see Joe Jordan score his first goal for City, and Brentford's defence was soon stretched with a Jordan run which so nearly gave City an early lead. Glyn Riley was being watched by Bournemouth last night, also had a clear scoring chance. His header parried away. Then came an amazing bit of luck for Brentford, a double dose of the crossbars. Owen centres, Moyes heads first, onto the bar. Up it goes, Riley heads, onto the bar again. So it was little wonder that Phillips looked extremely happy in the Brentford goal when he eventually grabbed the ball out of the air. Well, then on to the stroke of half-time, Dave Fitzpatrick's free kick hit the upright. Lucky 45 minutes it was for the visitors. Into the second half, Brentford had the best chance. As it started, that caused a few oohs and ahs, I can tell you. The deadlock was finally broken when Riley sent Owen into the box. There's Riley, Owen sprints in. Now, Murray, in my view, was unlucky to have judged to have tripped Owen. Brentford had my sympathy. That was until we saw the referee run for cover, quite literally. Few players lucky not to be booked. A rather nasty scene. Well, Owen's penalty shot was well saved. In the goal-mouth melee that followed, Jordan stayed cool, found the net, and then celebrated his first goal for the Robins. Just 4 minutes later, City made it 2-0. Walsh passed a beautiful ball upfield to Owen, onside. Took it down, looked up, saw Jordan free. Now Jordan gathered well, turned, shot, Phillips got a hand to it, and that left Riley to put the ball into an empty net. We then saw a traditional squat near punch. We then saw a flying Riley, wings and all. And then poor old 35-year-old Jordan had to catch him. No wonder Jordan decided to score the next goal himself. A minute from time, Owen centred to Jordan, free in the box, and you don't have to give him a chance like that. So 3-0 the final score. Swindon and City now go into the Southern Area semi-finals. Fingers crossed they're not drawn against each other. City now say they'd like to sign Gallia permanently, but Wimbledon's price certain to involve, I'm afraid, a visit to the tribunal. Well, on Saturday, Joe Jordan ended up in the referee's book for a tackle that would have been not too far amiss up the motorway at Twickenham. Jordan as competitive as always, and it's that sort of fighting spirit which has, since he arrived at the club just a few weeks ago, created a new urgency in City's play. Marvellous crowd, many from Bournemouth of course, and they couldn't believe their ill luck. Llewellyn's free kick floated into the area, up went Morgan and Newson, and the ball ended up in the far corner of the net. Well, for a moment we all thought Trevor Morgan had scored it. Certainly he looked happy about it, but let's just have a look at that goal in slow motion. Andy Llewellyn's free kick, a good one, in the air for a long time. Up went Mark Newson, and you could clearly see off his head, poor old goalie, no chance at all going in the far corner of the net. Well, Morgan did say with a smile that he thought it deflected off his ear. Sorry, Trevor, your ear must be as big as Dumbo's if it was. Anyway, bit of a smile. Bournemouth should have tied it up early in the second half. Winger Richard Cook will never know how he missed that one. Certainly the City fans won't. And then in the 77th minute, Morgan's through ball to Owen resulted in a luckless Newson pushing Owen. Referee, Mr. Wright, immediately pointed at the penalty spot. Well, Owen opted to take the penalty, and boy, didn't he take it well. So 2-0 to Bristol City in the end, pushing them into 4th place in the 3rd division. Bookings for new signings Jordan and Gallia, but despite that, a happy Terry Cooper, I bet.
And City had to win to stay in the promotion chase, and the 10,000 crowd certainly got their money's worth. After 10 minutes, almost everyone had a go here. Alan Walsh's shot off the bar, and Trevor Morgan just too late for the rebound. Then, after 20 minutes, Alan Walsh took a free kick. The goalkeeper didn't even move, and City, with most of the play until then, relieved to take the lead. Blackpool, though, were no pushover. A few moments later, a perfectly placed header, and Paul Stewart, the big number 9, quick to take advantage for the equaliser. But City always looked the more likely to score. Joe Jordan never out of the fray, setting Trevor Morgan away here. Alan Walsh misses his header, but Rob Newman is there to scramble home the rebound. And City are deservedly back in the lead. Blackpool, though, did hit back on occasion, forcing a wonderful save by Keith Wath, even if Blackpool were offside. Then, just before half-time, yet another free kick. The ball falls to David Moyes, and Paul Fitzpatrick, with the help of a deflection, for City's 3rd. The second half didn't match the first's excitement, although City could have had a couple more goals. Rob Newman's header just tipped over the bar here by Barry Siddle. Then Alan Walsh goes for his second. He starts the move, out to Jordan, a perfect cross, and Siddle again just down to Walsh's header.
Bristol City, with Joe Jordan, their frequent inspiration, here he's heading against the crossbar, were polishing off Gillingham with a 2-goal burst midway through the first half. It began with Walsh taking a corner. Gillingham only half clear it, and Williams gets it back to Walsh. Now he picks his spot, a nice little floater there. In goes Riley, and David Moyes moves in for the kill. Now, City's second goal was to come from young Mickey Tanner, a local lad in his first full home match. There he is, number 8, helping himself to his first goal for the side. Now, manager Cooper looked like keeping Newport in that relegation zone. Jordan's volley there, an early warning. Rob Newman switched to midfield because of shortcomings there recently. He got his shooting boots warmed up with that one. City was swarming all over the Welsh side, and even defender Andy Llewellyn got forward to help himself, denied only by the goal frame. Newport were becoming rattled, and their defence was cracking, and it was slack marking after 23 minutes, which allowed Trevor Morgan this simple chance. It was a deserved lead for the City side, and it took away the anxiety of several early misses. Alan Walsh was certainly enjoying himself. And it was Walsh's ability to curve the ball round the nearest defender which brought Jordan's chance to make it Bristol City 2, Newport 0. For a while after half-time, City faded, and Paul Giles managed to stretch Keith Waugh for the first time. But after 83 minutes, the goal of the match, a tremendous volley, and it lifted City and the game. And it jerked 9,000 spectators to their feet. You don't see many goals as well struck as this, as powerful as this, from far out as this. You see where he is? There's the 18-yard line. He's about 12 yards outside that. He beats a good goalkeeper from that distance. And finally, young Newman was to combine with Brian Williams in a move bringing another chance for City, a penalty when handball given against Lewis. Skipper Williams decided to take the penalty himself, made no mistake, so 4-0 to Bristol City. But the goal they were all talking about, Newman's biggest ever crowd outside Wembley in Freight Rover history, saw City strike after only 10 minutes. David Moyes' clearance, Walsh heads on, Jordan gets in there, supplies Riley. He waits for Walsh to come up. Real teamwork, this. Good cross from Walsh. There's Jordan waiting to pounce. Well, the crowd could now sense the gates of Wembley swinging open for City. Mansfield Town are the favourites to become the other team waiting for City at Wembley. Well, half an hour later last night, Joe Jordan was in action again. He began the breakaway there. He robbed Bobby Barnes once of West Ham. Nice ball finds Riley again. Good teamwork. There's Owen available outside if Riley wants him, but he spots Walsh inside. And once again, goalkeeper Tony Lange perhaps a little bit disappointed there not to be able to cover his goal mouth. Well, now the 16,000 crowd had a 3-goal aggregate lead to point them towards Wembley on May the 24th. In the second half, Aldershot often moved skillfully, but they couldn't break City's defence. And City's main concern became surviving an ecstatic crowd on the final whistle. Well, somewhere in there was a City team trying to get into the bath, and eventually Riley made it half ready for the bath. But first there were more joyous scenes for players and fans, directors and management up in the director's box. David Moyes with a memento there for a fan who'll never forget this great night. Joe, well done.
Thank you.
Enjoy the game?
I enjoyed it very much.
What about your goal?
I enjoyed that as well. I enjoyed both goals.
Good cross from
It was
Walsh.
a great cross. I made it nice. I never got as much power on it as I wanted to, but it was placed well and it went in.
After the dark days of '82, the club are the wealthiest. Got to be the wealthiest club outside the First Division now.
Well played.
enjoyed it.
So an
2-1 up from the first leg, City played with confidence. Joe Jordan knocked the stuffing out of any possible Aldershot revival after just 10 minutes. The 16,000 crowd were delighted, so was Jordan. Glyn Riley, desperate to get in on the goal-scoring action, gets in a good shot under pressure after an Alan Walsh cross. After 20 minutes, Alan Walsh must have been worrying his strong left foot wasn't on form. But shortly before half-time, he hits a perfect shot after an exciting break by Glyn Riley. Now Wembley was beyond doubt. In the second half, City knew they were home and dry and only produced a few chances. One from Joe Jordan, just wide. And from a corner, John McPhail was only just over. So that was the way it stayed. City were through 4-1 on aggregate. At the final whistle, it was an invasion of the pitch. The players in the director's box were also delighted. You'd have thought they'd already won the cup. And virtually the entire 16,000 crowd stayed to cheer them on. Downstairs, the players' celebrations continued, the singing not quite matching the quality of the football. Joe Jordan had a special reason for wanting to go to Wembley.
Also, as an added incentive for me, because I've got 4 kids, they'll be able to go to Wembley this year and see their daddy playing, and they've never done that before. So the Jordan family will be there in numbers, and it's going to be an extra day for our family.
The first goal I thought was an absolute copybook, tremendous, you know, 2 long balls and a superb cross, and Big Joe's got up and, you know, stuffed it by the keeper. And then Big Walshy, like only him can, struck one across him, and we come in 2-0 at half-time and the game's finished.
what does going to Wembley mean for you?
Well, you can't go enough, can you? I mean, I've been there as a player, and I've been there as a manager, and it's a place that you never tire of.
Dissuade peaceful folk from visiting such a cramped ground. The crowd was under 5,000 for a game attracting over 17,000 to City's ground only 3 months ago. And when Rovers borrowed Ashton Gate 10 days ago, remember, they got a crowd of over 8,000. Food for thought there, perhaps, for Rovers directors now over whether they should try again and renegotiate a long-term sharing with City. Still, Saturday's game itself was a disappointing affair in quality, and not surprisingly ended up as a goalless draw. The Rovers did get the ball in City's net near the final whistle, but the referee was to be in no doubt that the ball had gone out of play before being centred. There's the move building up on which Rovers base their hopes. But it's the ball over there, says the referee, before knocked into the net. Sports Minister Dick Tracy was present, and Ian Seymour asked him if local authorities should help Rovers find a new home.
The Rovers goalkeeper Phil Kite was glad to see Rob Newman's shot brush the outside of a post. Then an error in City's defence gave CARLISLE a chance, but the Gillingham man miscued badly. When Gordon Owen's free kick arrived, Joe Jordan headed wide, with Phil Kite angry at Gillingham's idea of marking. Glyn Riley was to be pulled back by the shirt by Gernon, but his fall was rated exaggerated by Gillingham. There's the tug, there's the fall. The referee gave a penalty converted by Brian Williams, but an angry Gillingham official jostled Riley in the dressing room corridor during half-time. Tonight, though, City say they regard this incident as closed, and last night it was back to the action with McPhail's header there and a super save from that man Phil Kite. In City's midfield, the new signing Steve Galliers was showing much useful work. It's not only goal scorers who provide the action which win matches. Galliers there intercepting once again. Classy work from Joe Jordan now to turn Les Berry. But again, the former Rovers goalkeeper was showing Bristol what he's made of. But he was to be beaten. By Marshall's header there, 2-0 to City. Marshall always looking a good deputy for the injured Alan Walsh. In the second half, City goalkeeper Woff underlining his efficiency all season. But it was Kite under siege again as City confirmed their right to climb over Gillingham and into 6th place in that table last night. Finally, it was the woodwork denying that youngster Gary Marshall another goal, and at the finish, a 10,000 crowd applauded the kind of show City need in all their 5 remaining league games if they're to fight their way into those promotion playoffs.
Top left of picture, and watch the arrow. Bamba's in a white shirt. There's a spectator in a green top. And there is the assault on him there. Coming now, there's Bamba, attack from one side, punch from the other to the ground, and he tumbled down to gate. Was indeed a picture. 19,000 people on a lovely sunny day. And they saw Andy Llewellyn's strong run from the back for City set up an important chance. Good work by the defender going all the way. Calderwood's attack is heavy there. Free kick it was, and Morgan's lovely diving header has the ball in the Swindon net. And City celebrate a vital breakthrough. City, of course, needed that second goal to be sure. And Gary Marshall very nearly had it. Only the crossbar denying him then. Well, Swindon were under the collar at this time, and next it's Rob Newman attacking them. Fine shot, super save by Fraser Digby. In the second half, Swindon improved, and a few anxious moments developed in the City defence. And Joe Jordan's header across his own box gives Coyne a chance. He cashes in. However, fate was to give City another chance. They were to be given a penalty. It was a controversial decision. Some thought a lucky decision, but City got it for Parkin impeding the falling Jordan there. City management wanted McPhail or Newman to take the kick, but Owen took it upon himself to take it, and he missed. A vital miss indeed. Well, with time running out, City pressed desperately. But Swindon were determined not to lose to the local rivals, and Mark Jones got that one off his line. Finally, it was Newman's excellent effort again, a fine shot from the number 2, but that inspired Swindon goalkeeper, Fraser Digby, had the last word. Well, so near and yet so far at the death then, Terry?
Yeah, very disappointing. Especially that we had the chance, we had a penalty, and I suppose if you're cruel, if you don't score penalties, you don't deserve to win. But having said that, I thought it was a superb team performance. I thought we started where we left off at Walsall. We were committed. We had enough pressure to win 3 games and created enough chances to win 3 games, but they defended well. The keeper was on good form as well.